He never raised his voice, never fought back until the day the school bully slammed him in front of everyone and found out exactly who he was messing with. Most kids at Cypress Creek. Middle had a group. Some rolled deep with the lacrosse team. Others huddled around sketchy deals near the back fence or gossiped in tight circles by the old oak trees. Ethan Vance didn't fit in anywhere, and he didn't try to. At 13, Ethan had mastered the art of invisibility. He wore muted colors, carried a quiet presence, and always had his worn, paint-stained sketchbook pressed tight to his chest like a shield. His sneakers were never new, his hoodie sleeves a little too long, but the boy could draw. Man, could he draw. He didn't talk much, but the lines in that book said everything. Twisting vines, consuming old buildings, lone figures standing against stormy skies, the quiet ache of things unseen. Stuff that made you stop and look again. But no one at Cypress Creek really noticed that because no one really noticed Ethan. Except when they did. He sat in the second-to-last seat in the back row during history, kept his eyes low and avoided raising his hand, even when he knew the answer. It wasn't about fear, it was about staying safe. Kids like him didn't get attention. They got laughed at, shoved, or worse. There was one moment the previous spring, just one where he let a tiny piece of himself peek out. Miss Anya Sharma, the art teacher, had held up Ethan's sketchbook to the class. "This," she'd said, her voice filled with genuine admiration, "is raw talent." Ethan didn't smile. He didn't look up. He hated it. That day, someone poured soda on his backpack in the locker room. No one admitted it. Ethan didn't say a word. That's how it was. Keep quiet, stay in your lane, and you might make it out without a permanent scar. He wasn't lonely, though. Not really. After school, he'd walk back to their small apartment in a brick walk-up, tucked away near the historic district. 2 bedrooms, the perpetual scent of spice lingering from the kitchen floors that creaked with every step. His mother, Celeste Vance, worked 2 jobs and never let the world wear her down. And Darius, his older brother, was like a built-in protector. 5 years older, part-time mechanic, full-time brother. Darius had hands like bricks and a stare that could stop you mid-sentence. But when it came to Ethan, he turned into this gentle giant. He'd peek over Ethan's shoulder while he sketched, never judging, just quiet. One evening, Darius noticed the faint bruise on Ethan's shoulder. "You fall?" Darius asked Ethan. Hesitated, then nodded. But Darius wasn't stupid. "You let someone put hands on you again," he asked, his voice low. "I'll show you something real." Then he handed Ethan a worn blue belt from back when he trained. "You're gonna learn now. I don't care if you never use it, but you gotta know how to move if someone touches you wrong." And so, in the middle of their tiny living room with laundry baskets shoved to the side and their mom calling from the kitchen, not to break anything, Ethan learned balance, how to breathe, how to stay standing when someone tried to knock you down. He didn't like fighting, but he liked control. And what Darius taught him wasn't about punching people in the face. It was about staying calm when everything went sideways, about knowing you could do something even if you didn't. Back at school, Ethan kept to himself, but now he walked just a bit differently, like someone who knew something nobody else did. He still got bumped in the hallway, sometimes still heard little laughs behind his back, still pretended not to hear his name, whispered with a smirk. But he stayed silent because it wasn't time yet. But the moment someone noticed him again, it wasn't the way he expected, and it came from the worst possible person. It started with a locker slam, not the kind that echoes down the hallway and gets a teacher's attention. No, this one was quiet, personal, meant for only one person to feel. "Hey, sketchbook kid," the voice said. "Your face always looked that sad? Or are you just saving it for history class?" Ethan didn't turn. He knew the voice. Everybody did. Brock Ashton, 8th grade. Bright sneakers always surrounded by 2 kids who laughed too hard and never said anything of their own. Dustin and Kevin Brock wasn't the kind of bully that chased you down the hallway, yelling threats. He was calculated. He picked targets, the way a snake might watch a rabbit. Slow, deliberate. Waiting for the right moment to strike when nobody else was looking, and somehow Ethan had caught his attention. At first it was just the nicknames Sketchbook, Silent Film, Emo Kid. Then it turned into shoulder bumps between classes, just enough force to make Ethan drop his books. The hall would keep moving like nothing happened. Even the teachers saw it sometimes and looked the other way. Ethan said nothing, picked up his stuff, kept walking. But Brock hated that. He wanted a reaction, something, anything. So he kept pushing. One morning before homeroom, Ethan opened his locker to find shredded pieces of his project scattered everywhere. His pencil pouch was gone. In its place, someone had stuffed a moldy banana peel and a note that read, "Lunch for the artist." He didn't cry, but he did sit there for a long time, just staring at the mess. His hands were clenched, but not shaking. Just still. Mr. Vince Rossi, the PE teacher, passed by, glanced over. Didn't stop. Ethan cleaned it up and walked to class. At home, Darius saw the scrape on his elbow and the wrinkle in his collar. "Someone touched you again." Ethan shrugged. "Say the word and I'll walk through those doors with you." "I got it," Ethan said quietly. "I'm fine." Darius didn't press, but he did go back to drilling him harder in the living room that night. Ethan learned how to block from a standing grab. He practiced over and over until his muscles remembered it better than his mind. Back at school, Brock wasn't done, not even close. Lunch period in the cafeteria. Ethan moved to his usual corner seat with his tray, pasta mystery meat, untouched carton of milk. He opened his sketchbook fork still in his hand, then a tray slammed down across from him. "You ever draw yourself crying?" Brock asked, flashing that fake grin of his. "Bet that page would be fire." Ethan said nothing. "You're too good to talk, huh?" Brock leaned in. "Act like you got some kind of superpower or something." Ethan closed his book slowly, not scared, just tired. "Why don't you talk?" Brock asked again. "That's what I don't get. You walk like nobody can touch you? That what your brother taught you? That big dude with the busted car and the second-hand tools?" Ethan didn't flinch, but he looked up for the first time right into Brock's eyes and held the stare. That was the moment it shifted. Brock wasn't used to that. Not from the quiet ones. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even angry, just steady. Brock stood up slowly, then shoved Ethan's tray off the table. It clattered on the floor, splashing milk and pasta across the tile. The whole table looked over. Some laughed. Most didn't. Ethan stood, picked up the tray, walked to the trash, sat back down, kept sketching. But in Brock's eyes, that calmness more than any punch was disrespect. And the next time he laid hands on Ethan, he'd make sure there was an audience. On the second floor of an aging walk-up just off Meeting Street in Charleston, you'd find apartment 2B, the Vance's place. The kitchen window didn't close right. The air conditioner rattled in the summer heat, and every night, Ethan fell asleep to the sound of his mom's phone alarms going off before her next shift. The apartment wasn't perfect, but it had heart. His mom, Celeste Vance, was the kind of woman who held the whole family together with nothing but her will and a chipped coffee mug. She worked long hours at the hospital kitchen, then cleaned offices downtown on weekends. Even when her feet hurt and her wrists ached, she'd still stop by Ethan's room before bed, touch his forehead and whisper, "You good baby." She didn't ask questions when he said yes, but she always knew when something was off. Then there was Darius, 19, 6'2" hands stained with motor oil from the garage job he worked. He was built like a defensive lineman, but walked like someone raised by a tired mom. Soft, careful, never wasting words. After dinner, the living room turned into a practice mat. The coffee table got pushed aside, couch pillows tossed onto the floor for padding, and Darius would start their drills. "You ever been grabbed from behind like this?" he asked one evening. Ethan shook his head. "You might. And when you do, you ain't thinking about it. You just move." He showed him how to pivot his hip, shift his weight, trap, the arm rollout. Then again. Then again. Darius didn't yell, didn't push him past his limit, just watched, corrected, made sure Ethan understood what his body could do. When his mouth stayed quiet, Ethan liked those nights more than he ever said out loud. It wasn't just the moves, it was the rhythm, the way Darius's voice stayed low, the way their mom would peek in from the hallway with a towel over her shoulder and half a smile, like she was proud and worried all at once. "You sure about teaching him all this?" she asked one night, folding clothes on the couch. "Better he know and never use it," Darius replied, "than not know and wish he did." Their mom nodded, didn't say more, but she looked at Ethan like she knew the weight he was carrying, and maybe in her own way, she was helping him carry it too. Later that night, Ethan sat on the floor of his bedroom sketchbook in his lap. The page was almost full. 2 boys in a cafeteria, one standing, one sitting, the tray midair, the milk frozen in time. He didn't draw their faces, didn't need to. He looked at the page for a long time, then flipped to a blank one and started again. This time he drew hands, open in motion, one grabbing, one deflecting. Each stroke had precision now, not just creativity. Control. Darius knocked on his door. Put on shoes. "Why we going to the park?" Time. "You feel what this stuff means outside 4 walls at White Point Park." The grass was worn in places, and the basketball court had cracks in the concrete, but nobody cared. It was alive. Kids running, old men laughing loud while slapping down dominoes. Ethan and Darius found a quiet patch of grass near the cannons overlooking the water. There, Darius showed him how to fall safely, how to use someone's weight against them, how to take a hit, stay breathing and move. "You don't ever got to be the biggest," Darius said, kneeling beside him. "Just the one that doesn't panic." That stuck with Ethan. So did the look Darius gave him afterward. It wasn't just brother to brother anymore. It was something more, like you're ready. But even with all that practice, nothing could prepare Ethan for what would happen next, when practice turned into reality, and this time everyone would be watching. It was a typical day, mac and cheese day, the kind where the tray was mostly orange slop, but at least it didn't come with mystery meat. Ethan walked the line like always, head low, tray in hand, sketchbook tucked under his arm like armor. He scanned the cafeteria, found his usual corner seat near the window, 3rd table from the back, left side out of the way. But today he wasn't fast enough. "Move," someone said behind him. A tray bumped his lower back. He turned slightly. It was Brock again. Behind him, those same 2 kids, Dustin and Kevin, trailing him like shadows. Ethan didn't say anything, just stepped aside. Brock laughed, exaggerated it loud enough for heads to turn. "You're like a scared little mouse, man. You ever make a sound?" Ethan slid into his seat, opened his sketchbook, blocked everything out. Or tried to. A few minutes later, Brock appeared across the table. No tray, just standing there, eyes locked on Ethan, like he'd finally picked the exact moment to act. "You draw me yet?" he asked. Ethan didn't look up. "Bet you did. Probably made me look all evil or something, huh?" Brock chuckled to himself, then leaned over and grabbed Ethan's sketchbook. Ethan's hand shot out, fast, gripped the edge. "Let go, bro," Brock said, tugging harder, but Ethan didn't. Instead, he stood. The cafeteria got quiet, real fast. This wasn't normal. Ethan never stood, never resisted, never said a word. Brock jerked the book again. "You deaf or stupid?" Still holding it. Ethan said one word. Just one. "No." It was quiet but clear. Brock's eyes flared. "What did you just say?" "I said no." Then, in one sudden motion, Brock let go of the sketchbook and shoved Ethan backward. Hard. Both hands to the chest. Ethan stumbled 2 steps, caught his balance. The book hit the floor with a slap. Everyone saw it. It was like the lunchroom hit pause. Even the lunch lady stopped scooping. Ethan didn't go for the book. He stepped forward. Brock smirked, thought he had him. But Ethan grabbed his wrist just like Darius taught him and twisted it, not to hurt, just to control. He didn't throw a punch. He didn't yell. He shifted, pulled, pivoted, and in 3 seconds, Brock was on the floor. Hard, flat on his back, mouth open. Red in the face, shocked more than hurt. Gasps went around the room like static. Ethan didn't pose, didn't gloat. He just looked down for a moment, breathing slow, then picked up his sketchbook and walked away. That's when Mr. Rossi, the PE teacher, who'd been eating lunch with the staff in the corner, suddenly stood up. "Hey, Vance, stop right there." Ethan did. "Come with me now." He didn't argue, just followed him quietly out the double doors and down the hall toward the office. Back in the cafeteria, nobody laughed. Dustin and Kevin stood there, stunned. Even the teachers were slow to move, like their brains couldn't process what just happened. Brock stayed on the floor for another 10 seconds before scrambling to his feet and throwing a tray in anger. He's crazy, man. Kid's crazy. But no one backed him up. Nobody clapped either. Just silence. But as Ethan sat in the front office waiting for Principal Thompson, the real noise began to build. Not in the room, but in whispers across the school, because for the first time they saw what happened when someone quiet finally had enough. Ethan sat in the blue plastic chair outside Principal Thompson's office. His sketchbook rested on his lap. He didn't open it, didn't tap his foot, didn't look nervous. Inside voices rose and fell. "She needs to know what her son did," Mr. Rossi said sharply. "That wasn't just self-defense. He was being harassed," another voice replied. It sounded like Ms. Sharma, the art teacher. "I've seen it." "So have others." Ethan stared at the floor tiles. One was cracked, a little sliver missing near the edge, just like the hallway, just like the school, just like so many things that get stepped on over and over until they fall apart. The door opened. "Ethan." Principal Thompson said, her voice low but tight. He stood up and walked in. Principal Thompson sat at her desk, Mr. Rossi to her right, Ms. Sharma on her left. None of them looked comfortable. "Ethan," Principal Thompson said again, "let's talk about what happened today." He didn't answer. "Do you understand why you're here?" He nodded. "Do you want to tell us what happened in the cafeteria?" He paused. "He took my sketchbook." "And you responded by putting him on the ground." "I didn't hit him." Mr. Rossi leaned forward. "You threw him." "No," Ethan said quietly but firmly. "I moved." Principal Thompson sighed. "There's a line, Ethan. Even if someone's provoking you," Ms. Sharma cut in. "And what about the line that got crossed before this? We all knew Brock was messing with him. How long have we looked away?" Nobody spoke because she was right. Finally, Principal Thompson folded her hands. "We'll be contacting your mother. We'll have to file a report." Ethan nodded once. "You can wait in the counselor's office. For now." He stood, picked up his sketchbook, and left. That afternoon, Celeste Vance walked into the front office with her work uniform still on. She didn't yell. She didn't make excuses. She listened. Then she turned to Principal Thompson and said, "You know how many times I told this school my son was getting harassed?" Principal Thompson opened her mouth, but Celeste cut her off. "I got the emails. I got the voicemails. You never returned. I told you when he came home with a bruised arm. I told you when he stopped eating lunch, and now you want to talk about what's too far." Mr. Rossi looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Celeste turned to Ethan. "And be you okay?" He nodded. "Good. Then let's go." But Principal Thompson stood. "Mrs. Vance." "We're still reviewing what happened." "No," Celeste said. "You're reacting to what finally happened. That's different." They left without another word. By the next day, everyone knew the video was everywhere. Some 8th grader had filmed it from 2 tables over. No commentary, no edits, just the moment Brock got put on his back and the quiet kid walked away. Some said Ethan should have been suspended. Some said he should have been applauded. Most didn't know what to say, because the truth was, Brock wasn't just a bully. He was a mirror. He reflected everything. People let happen, the hallway bumps, the whispered names, the way teachers looked the other way, the way silence became easier than action. And Ethan had broken that mirror, not with fists, but with the quiet, sharp movement of someone who'd been trained for a moment like this. Not to hurt, but to protect. Even Brock didn't talk much the next day. He came to school late, sat in the back of class. No one sat with him at lunch. Ethan returned to his usual seat, but this time no one bothered him. Some kids glanced his way, like they wanted to say something but didn't. And that was fine. He didn't want praise. He wanted space. He just opened his sketchbook and kept drawing. But things didn't stop there, because now people started asking questions. Not about what Ethan did, but why it ever got that far. The week after the cafeteria incident, something shifted at Cypress Creek Middle School. Not in some big dramatic way. There were no assemblies, no school-wide speeches. But the silence changed. Whispers turned into side conversations. A few students started asking each other things out loud, stuff that had been sitting under the surface for a long time. Why didn't any of the teachers stop Brock before? Did you ever say anything when he shoved that kid last semester? Why is it always the quiet ones that gotta take the hit before anyone pays attention? For the first time, the spotlight wasn't just on Ethan, it was on the adults, the system. The way problems only became real when someone got hurt, bad enough. Ms. Sharma brought it up in her staff meeting. She said Brock had been bullying kids for years, not just Ethan. And when she asked why no one intervened, nobody had a good answer, Mr. Rossi. The PE teacher said, "He's just a loud kid." "We all got those." To which Ms. Sharma replied, "A loud kid doesn't make 3 students stop coming to school because they're scared." That landed like a punch in the gut. Parents started calling in. One mother said her son had stopped riding the bus because of Brock. Another said her daughter transferred schools after weeks of harassment, and no one ever called her back. It wasn't just about Brock anymore. It was about every time a teacher shrugged off a complaint, every email that got flagged for follow-up, but never answered every moment. A kid like Ethan was told without words that being quiet meant being invisible. Principal Thompson was forced to act. She ordered a formal review of past complaints, sent a letter home about creating a new student safety task force. It sounded nice, polished. But for the kids, it wasn't about policies. It was about watching what happened next. Brock, for his part, kept his head down. No one made fun of him, but no one defended him either. His circle shrunk. Dustin and Kevin kept their distance now. It's funny how loyalty fades when it's no longer safe. Meanwhile, Ethan became the face of a conversation he never asked to start. Ms. Sharma invited him to talk during advisory period. "Only if you want to," she told him. No pressure, he said no at first. But later that week, something changed his mind. He walked past a 6th grader, crying quietly by the water fountain. Her binder was on the ground, papers everywhere. A few girls stood nearby laughing, pretending they weren't the reason Ethan stopped. Picked up the girl's papers, handed her the binder, looked at the girls. Didn't say a word. And they walked away. The girl looked up at him like he was a superhero. That night, Ethan agreed to speak. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't long. He stood in front of 25 classmates in room 108, his sketchbook clutched to his chest. "I don't like talking," he said, "but I'm tired of pretending like silence means nothing's wrong." He paused, flipped his sketchbook open, held it up. The page showed a kid standing alone in a hallway. Behind him were shadowy figures, some with smirks, some with crossed arms, some just walking by like nothing was happening. "People say bullies are the problem," Ethan continued, "but sometimes it's the people who see it and look away." No one said anything. He closed the sketchbook. "If someone like me can stand up, maybe some of you can too." He didn't stay after, didn't wait for praise, he just walked out. But that short moment in room 108 sparked something Ethan couldn't see right away, because sometimes the smallest voices end up echoing the loudest. 2 weeks after the lunchroom incident, things didn't magically get better. But something was different. The hallways weren't louder, the bullying didn't vanish overnight, but eyes were open now. People were paying attention. And Ethan Vance, he stayed the same. Quiet hoodie still too big. Sketchbook in hand. But now when he walked down the hall, people moved out of his way. Not in fear, in respect. Even teachers watched him differently. Not like a troublemaker, not like a mystery, but like someone they owed more than they'd ever admit. Mr. Rossi didn't say much after that day in the office, but during one class he gave Ethan a nod when he turned in his project. That was it. Nothing more, nothing less. Ethan didn't need more. At lunch, he still sat alone except on certain days. That's when one kid, Samuel, from 7th grade started sitting near him. Didn't talk much, just ate quietly. Then another joined the next week. Then one more. It wasn't a group. It wasn't a movement. It was a shift. In the library, Ethan was invited to submit his drawings to the end-of-year showcase. Not just the twisting vines and lone figures, but the cafeteria scene, the hands in motion, even the faceless hallway kids. Ms. Sharma framed them herself. But what stuck with Ethan most was something that happened outside school. He and Darius were walking home from the corner store, bags in hand, when a man with a friendly face and a bright blue polo shirt approached them. Said he was a parent from Cypress Creek. "You're the kid, right?" the man asked. Ethan tensed, unsure. The man smiled a little awkward. "My son's in 6th. He told me what you did." Said it made him feel like maybe he could speak up, too. Ethan didn't know what to say, so the man just added, "Thank you." That night, back in his room, Ethan pulled out his sketchbook. Drew 2 boys on a sidewalk, one older, taller, walking just a step behind the other. They weren't speaking, but there was light coming from behind them, casting long shadows ahead. He looked at the page, then wrote one word in the corner. Enough. The next day in English class, Ms. Evans asked everyone to write a 1-page reflection on someone they admired. Most kids chose cute athletes. A couple picked parents, one chose a YouTuber. Ethan wrote about his mom. "She works 2 jobs," he began, "and still finds a way to check if I ate." Then he added something at the end that surprised even him. "I used to think staying quiet was the only way to stay safe, but I learned that sometimes silence lets the wrong people get louder." He turned it in, folded neatly. No sketch this time, just words. A few days later, Principal Thompson called him in again. But this time, the conversation was different. "Ethan," she said, sitting across from him, her voice softer, "we're starting a peer-led student support group. We'd like you to be part of it." He hesitated. "You don't have to say anything," she added quickly. "Just be there." After a long pause, Ethan nodded. "Once." That day he sat in a circle of 5 kids. One girl talked about being mocked for her accent. A boy mentioned how no one believed he was being followed after school. No one had a solution. They just listened. "And Ethan?" He sketched while they spoke, but at the end he said, "You're not weak because you didn't fight back. You're not soft because you're tired. You're just human. And people need to start treating each other like that." And they listened because when Ethan spoke now, people leaned in, not because he raised his voice, but because he meant every word. And for the first time in his life, Ethan Vance wasn't just seen. He was heard. Life won't always hand you justice. Sometimes it hands you a choice. To keep walking. Or to take a stand. Ethan chose the second, quietly, powerfully.